Hey IB Environmental students, we're going to do 4.2.5, the IUCN Red List, Communicating Vulnerability, our second part of 4.2. Let's begin. So the Red List was created by the World Conservation Union, IUCN, to determine the extinction risks and set numerical thresholds and qualifications for different risk categories for organisms. Remember those causes for extinction? Well, this is how we can communicate that risk to other people. There's lots of different categories that exist out there. So this group, the IUCN, decided that it's hard with so many different categorizations. What do these things even mean? Let's all be on the same page and use the same phrases. So the aims for the Red List system were a lot of being consistent for different people in communicating that risk. Clear guidance about how to evaluate the risk, as well as being able to compare things as vastly different as plants and animals and fungi in how at risk they are for dying out and becoming extinct. And this system has been in place for 50 years, so it's a pretty solid system. So let's talk about those different categories really quick. So our first category is one we're pretty familiar about, and we hope things don't become it: extinct. There's no reasonable doubt that the last individual has died. This only gets categorized after exhaustive surveys, and they've really checked many times throughout history and carefully during the right season and so forth that there's no organisms left. There's only been a few cases where they've done this improperly, so once something's labeled as extinct, they're really, really sure for the most part. Endangered is something that we're really worried that the extinction is nearby. The survival is unlikely of the species if factors continue operating, such as natural disasters or human impact. It's really close to extinction. The category that's not quite as bad as endangered is vulnerable. They're going to move to endangered category soon in the near future if the factors causing their decline in their population size continue to operate. Those factors are usually the things we learned in our last podcast, HIPPO. Remember, that's habitat destruction, invasive species, pollution, population problems, or potentially overexploitation by humans. One of our last few categories is the fact that some organisms are just so rare in the world naturally. Maybe they only exist on a couple islands. So they just naturally have a small world population, and they're not necessarily endangered or vulnerable because of things that humans are doing, but they are at risk if there was some unexpected threat, such as a hurricane or a volcano, and then they would become in critical condition if something bad were to happen because there's just so few of them. Usually this is when there's just a small geographic distribution, and usually we think of this as islands. And lastly, our last category is unknown. So these are suspected but not definitely known to belong in any of the categories because of a lack of info. They're on the list so people are aware that people are worried, but they're not yet categorized as anything else. So in general, we want that diversity, and because of that, organizations like the IUCN have created this sort of system to communicate so that there's a little less confusion and that the categories are consistent. All right, great job. I know 2 podcasts is rough, but this was great. I hope you had a good one. Bye.